Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm here today to share with you a little special TBR for 2024 that I've created. I decided not to do too many special TBRs this year, just to leave my reading as open as possible to reading by whim. But I did have a really great experience last year in 2023 that made me contemplate this little TBR, and I think it may be one that I continue to do going forward. So last year I reread a book that I had read previously because I was using it for some research, Writing a Woman's Life by Carolyn Helibrun. And what happened while I was reading that book was that I super enjoyed having the chance to go through it again, to revisit a lot of the things that had underlined, a lot of the things that I had been thinking of, and to refamiliarize myself with the text. And so it made me think that I probably should be rereading some of my favorite books more often. And that, the process of doing that is enriching in multiple ways. And it also helps you, I think, to not just look at your shelves and say, oh, I love that book, but to actually really believe and know for certain year after year that you do love that book. Not that you should reread all of your favorite books every year, but more that if you take a few years in between to grow and change as a person, to read other things and then go back and revisit those texts, I think it gives you a really interesting perspective on yourself, on your evolution as a reader, and also on how your favorite books can really give back to you more than just once from reading them. So I've chosen 4 books specifically to reread in 2024. I am actually rereading a couple others, but they are not going to be on this little TBR. So because I might just dip in and out of them. So the first one that I want to reread this year is Through the Flower: My Struggle as a Woman Artist by Judy Chicago. This book is actually on my top 10 books of all time list, and I will link that video, which is from years and years ago, down below if you're interested in looking at that list. I actually may revisit that list at some point soon, because I think it's, as you evolve, as you read more, your lists can change in terms of your top books of all time. This book, though, is a memoir from feminist artist Judy Chicago. And I read this a very long time ago when I was a young art student, and I actually have a very strong memory of reading it on the bus on the way to New York City to look at art with a whole bunch of other art students. So it's a really powerful memory for me. And what this book did was it illuminated me to a lot of the struggles internally that I was having around claiming the identity of artist and how those related to me being female. And so Judy Chicago is a very inspiring, strong artist who worked very hard to try to promote her own work as well as the work of other women. And this was, during the 1970s was when she came of age, during the feminist movement, the second wave, a really strong time of change. And so I'm really, really looking forward to rereading this and to reading it now as an adult. I was probably 19 when I read it. So I don't think I really was an adult yet at that point. And just, revisiting her struggle, her world, her work, and learning from that some more. Okay, so the next one on the list, changing to a completely different type of book, is Flames by Robbie Arnott. So this, Robbie Arnott is an Australian author based out of Tasmania, I believe. And this is his debut novel. This is just a tour de force of a book that has stayed with me. The imagery in here, the characters, This is, I call it kind of a superhero, mythical tale that just ignites your imagination. It's so visually stimulating in its imagery and in its poetic prose. It's just an amazing book. Robbie Arnott has subsequently published 2 more books, The Rain Heron, and I'm not remembering the third one, which I haven't read yet. I have read The Rain Heron, and I have it, and I did enjoy The Rain Heron, but I didn't love it as much as Flames. So I will definitely read his third novel. These are a little bit harder for me to get in Canada. I basically have to order them because they don't have them at libraries or anything, unfortunately, because he's an amazing author. This is an amazing book, and I just think that I would enjoy going back into this world again and revisiting this imagery because it was so magical and transportive. And so, yeah, really looking forward to rereading that one. Also transportive, Exit West by Mohsin Hamid. Mohsin Hamid is one of my favorite authors. This was the first book of his that I read, and I listened to it on audio. And then I read this one, which I can't remember the title of right now. And I have his other books as well on my TBR. I believe he also published a new one in 2023. So there's more of his work that I need to explore. I really enjoy the way that he writes. But Exit West I remember when I was reading it, there were so many lines that I heard on the audio version that sounded so beautiful to me, and I really want to explore those again. It's not a very long book. It's just over 200 pages, so it'll be a quick read, but I found this on a discount shelf at a bookstore years ago and purchased it because I knew I loved this book so much. And so I really am excited to revisit the text, go back into this world, revisit his the way he writes again. I just really love. So this will be a really fun reread, probably later on in the year. And my 4th reread is a very special one. This is my favorite novel of all time, The Diviners by Margaret Laurence. So when I originally read this, I read a library copy. I did a review of this book, which is one of the first videos that was ever on my YouTube channel. So I will link that down below if you haven't seen it yet. I believe it is still the only review of this book on BookTube. So this one is, when you're like, that's my favorite book, and then you don't want to go back to it because you're worried it's not going to be your favorite book anymore. I do have a little bit of that anxiety, but I also know that this book stays with me. Nothing has topped it since I read it. I believe I read this in 2017 or 2018. So in that time, I haven't read a book that's topped it. And the other thing I wanted to share about this that's a little bit special for me is that I am going to be doing my first read along on this channel for The Diviners by Margaret Laurence. So I haven't figured out yet exactly when that's going to be. I think it's either going to be May or June of 2024, and I will be hosting a read along of this book. So if you have not read this, and you've always wanted to, then I hope you will join me as I'm rereading it and read it along with me. This novel is, I think, a exceptional Canadian novel. This is set in the fictional town of Amanahuaca and follows Morag Gunn, who to me is one of the most complex and beautifully crafted Canadian characters that I've ever read. So this story follows Morag from her childhood into her, past middle age, I would say. And she is a writer. She is raising a child. She is trying to figure out who she is. And it also ties really beautifully in with a Métis story for one of Morag's main people in her life. And so you learn a lot about the Métis struggles in Manitoba throughout the years, because a lot of that history is woven into this story as well as settler history, that Morag's family is from Scotland. And so a lot of that is woven in. So it's a beautiful mixture of Indigenous and settler realities and how they move together. So it's a wonderful novel. If you've ever been interested in reading it, I really hope that you will consider joining me for the read along. I will make a more specific video about it and about when it will be later on this year. And I just wanted to give a little teaser to anyone that might be interested in reading this year, so you can get your hands on a copy and plan out your year. May or June is when we will be doing a read along to The Diviners. So those are my 4 rereads for 2024. Please let me know down below if you're going to be rereading any books this year. I have never really prioritized rereading on my TBR before, and I'm very excited to have this little TBR to revisit this year. And I think it really does enrich your life as a reader to revisit books that you love. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another video.